If we aren't able to get to your question tonight, you can always contact the Senator on the office's website at hickenlooper.senate.gov. With that, I'm going to ask the Senator to join us on the stage. Please, Senator Hickenlooper, let's give him a warm welcome. Welcome to Colorado Springs. So, are you okay if we just get started?
Well, let me first just take a second.
All right, please.
And thank everybody. I know everybody's as busy as I am, as anybody is. I know these are especially hard times and disorienting. I don't think I've slept a full night, probably in 3 or 4 months. And that starts a month before the November election. I recognize with great clarity that our country is being changed radically right before our eyes. And in many ways, people are asking me, everywhere I go, I've been just going all over the state, what are you doing about it? What's gonna happen? And, you know, the Democrats lost the White House, Senate, the House, but that doesn't mean we roll over, and we haven't. And we have pushed and fought on the floor. You don't read about it. People forget that we have now, I mean, the NBC, CBS, and Nightly News, they don't sell advertising anymore. They get no revenue from selling advertising. That local revenue from your local TV station goes to the local TV station. So they make all the revenue from eyeballs and attention, how long they can keep an eyes on the screen. And so if it's not going to go viral, they don't cover it. But there are, I don't know, 70 whistleblowers now throughout various agencies of the federal government at all different levels, connected to somebody from the House of Representatives or a senator. They are reporting back every example of real or potential illegal activity. That's how we found out about a lot of these things, and there are somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 lawyers litigating every activity that was uncovered. We're winning more than half of those. There are over 200 pending right now. We are looking at, and again, the Fox News and many of the Republican media outlets have been doing social media for a long time. Most Republican and Democratic House members, Senate members have never done that very much. We are spending, at least on the Democratic side, we're spending a couple hours a week learning how to tell a story that has a political purpose. But here's the policy we're trying to do, and here's how it can get repeated. Because the vast majority of people under 40 get their news now from Instagram or YouTube, and we're not showing up there. So whatever we are doing is not getting done. I think the bottom line is that we are pushing back at the level, partly because so many of the things that have happened are so unconscionable. Laying off over 5,000 veterans. That's not why people voted for Donald Trump. Looking at cutting $880 billion from the Health and Human Services budget, which basically means that's the budget of Medicaid. And just so you're aware, somewhere between 60 and 70% of the inhabitants of our nursing homes are on Medicaid. So you cut half of Medicaid, you're going to put half of our grandmas and grandfathers on the street and possibly bankrupt them in the process. You look at farmers not being able to get foreign markets. You look at, go down the list, they're cutting back the Veterans Administration. So originally they cut the people handling the calls on the suicide hotline. We cut the safety workers, the nuclear engineers who are in charge of making sure our nuclear supplies were safe and our what's nuclear safe was waste. They had to put them back to work. I mean, they're moving so fast, they're making these reckless decisions. And again, we're calling them out on the illegal ones. The courts, are holding up so far. But a big part of this is going to be having the senior citizens who are at threat of getting kicked out of a nursing home, showing up at both Democratic and Republican House members at their offices, at their town halls, they've got a round table, and not throwing stuff, but saying, this is not acceptable. And I think that right now, the Republicans can only lose 4 votes on any of these things in the House. That's a paper-thin majority when you're talking about 435 people. And I think just from what we've seen, I did a town hall 2 weeks ago. We had 8,000 people there. And once we got around to talking about organizing and how we could all do this together, they were pretty fired up. So it is frustrating. I, again, wake up. Can't tell you how much I wish there was more that I was doing, that we could do, that was being done. But I will tell you that there are a huge number of people doing everything they can that you might never see or hear about. But they're out there working on your behalf.
Senator. And we are very grateful to have you working on our behalf and causing you to lose a lot of sleep. Please raise your hand if you have a question you'd like to start with. The blue shirt gentleman right here, would you start, please, for us? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. A little higher. So, Senator, thank you very much for being here. Thanks to all of you for being here. I'm 78 years old, and like you, I'm losing sleep. I'm an independent voter. I voted both ways, so I'm not particularly aligned either way. But this is a frightening time. My name is Randy Stiles. I am an Air Force veteran, 30 years, half teaching aerospace engineering at the Air Force Academy, 2 years at Air Force Space Command during my 30 years. The what in my question is about Space Command headquarters and all that's going on. I want to quote from Space News from 2 days ago. This is what it said: "The years-long political tug-of-war over the permanent home of U.S. Space Command headquarters has flared up again, with House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mike Rogers, Republican of Alabama, claiming the Trump administration is poised to reverse the Biden-era administration and relocate the command from Colorado Springs to Huntsville, Alabama." Later in that article, this representative claimed it would save $420 million. In the Gazette Telegraph today, in their editorial, it said, well, it's going to cost at least $1 billion to make this move, and upset a lot of people about having to move from the Springs. So here's the question. Have you seen any recent updated analysis related to the merits of such a move, and do you have any confidence in such an analysis? And related, after all the study that's been done for the last few years regarding cost savings and military effectiveness, do you think any such move makes any sense beyond party politics?
That's such an easy question. No! There is not one shred of evidence that suggests that we would gain, and the president head of Space Command has said this publicly, we would gain not one iota of advantage by having Space Command in Huntsville versus having it here. What Huntsville, when they're talking to the press, forgets to mention, they claim this $400 million. Well, that's assuming people, that you're going to get these high-paid engineers to take huge pay cuts for the pleasure of living in Alabama. I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm being direct. I think to get people to move, when Space Command moved here, coming out of Nebraska, I think 85% of the civilians didn't move. It wasn't that Colorado wasn't great; they just don't want to move. Yeah. And I think that's many people, once they've achieved a certain amount of success, and that civilian population of Space Command is highly trained. They are integrated into the ecosystem here. So we've been now at 18 months, we are at full operational capability. I think it's a pretty easy argument to say our international relations are frayed beyond anyone's imagination 6 months ago, even those with lively imaginations, that we've dispatched most of the allies we've built over the last 80 years. We're turning our backs on Canada and Mexico. We're emboldening and actually almost inviting our arch rivals, Russia. Who ever knew we'd be making nice with Russia? Yep. China, Iran. This is a time when we need Space Command more than ever. China is a very close second to us in capability in space, and they've demonstrated they can blow a satellite right out of the air. We have to have Space Command at full operating capability, as it is now and has been for 18 months, nonstop. If we moved it, we would have at least 6 and probably 8 or 10 years of diminished operating capability. It makes no sense. The several generals in Washington who I've talked to, they don't have a recent assessment. Their belief, their full belief, is it would be at least $2 billion, not $1 billion, $2 billion to move Space Command, just to build the buildings and the infrastructure. So there's no possible advantage from it. People's lives will be uprooted. They'll lose all this trade, all the trained staff, and the cost, the enormous cost, and the loss of operating capability makes it ridiculous. And the third part that no one really talks about, all the other elements of our space security are here already. So we have 4 other major agencies that create an ecosystem where people are talking to each other over lunch.
Yeah.
And give it, I figured this out, you get that software glitch, here's how we fix it. You're not going to get that when you go to a whole new place and start a beachhead there. So I do everything I can. One great thing, the Gazette in Colorado Springs, the Denver Post in Denver, the Grand Junction, Sentinel, each has made a big deal that our 4 Republicans, that we've got a Republican Senate, a Republican President, and a Republican House, but they only got a 4-vote advantage in the House. If our 4 Republicans stay strong and refuse to sign on and vote for any funding bill that allows any money to be spent to build Space Command infrastructure in Alabama, if they stay strong, they can't do it. Trump can do an executive order, but that doesn't pay for it to move. And I think I've been very impressed by our 4 Republicans. Jeff Crank is your representative. He's been rock solid, and he needs to keep hearing that. Because when I got elected senator, I'll cut this off because you don't want to spend the whole night talking about Space Command. When I got elected to the Senate, the Gazette Telegraph wrote 3 consecutive articles and editorials, mostly 2 editorials, 1 article, about Hickenlooper's come in, there's a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, a Democratic President. If Space Command moves, his name is mud, right? He will never get reelected to dog catcher, and we hold him personally accountable. Basically, that's what they said. So, trust me, I took it seriously. I guarantee you, Jeff Crank's taking it seriously. The others are taking it seriously. Our whole delegation is 100% on board.
Thank you, Senator. Oh, so many hands. I'm actually going to go to the guy who's had his hand up for the whole last question. So if you would stand up there, you've had your hand up. Yes.
Thank you for your time, Senator. My name is Ernst Barson. I am a graduate student here at UCCS getting my MPA. I'm also an intern over at NORAD, US Northcom. I recently had a job offer rescinded from US Space Command thanks to the hiring freeze. That was the 2nd job that I lost. I also lost another job with a local contractor here because of the funding freeze. That contractor has since had to cut their staff by 70%. My question, though, is in relation to what we're seeing with ICE and the deportation of even US citizens at this point, the administration that is now refusing to accept a ruling by the Supreme Court. It seems like this is now moving to Congress's arena and holding this president accountable. And in that, what are you and other Democrats, congressional members doing about this?
To see an officer of the United States government with a mask on arresting someone on the street and then taking them to detention and without a hearing sending them to a permanent hellhole of a prison, one of the worst prisons on earth, is something that, as it was happening, and as I've seen these arrests take place, is more chilling than anything I've ever experienced in my life. I think that Obviously, the Supreme Court has ruled. It's beginning to look like the president is not going to obey the ruling of the Supreme Court. It creates pretty serious constitutional crisis. I think there is increasing effort within at least the Senate. I'm not as familiar with the House, but I think there are a number of Republicans in the Senate that are, this is not an excuse, but they're being threatened. If they go against the president one time, they're going to get the richest man on earth who's going to go out and spend tens of millions of dollars against their primary opponent. In other words, they're going to lose their primary. But at a certain point, staying in office when you're losing the basic elements of democracy is how I would paint that picture. Why are you in the Senate? And most of you know from my time while I was here as governor, I always tried to work with the other sides because I think that's what makes democracy succeed. One of the reasons that people are so frustrated with Congress in Washington is because it's just become so partisan. It's a mess. I went in there thinking it was going to be bad, but it's worse. Now saying that, I like it. I mean, I know that's revealing. I think having been a mayor and having been a governor and having a lot of experience owning a bunch of restaurants, like the Fenn Canyon, which I don't own anymore, that was not a plug. But I'm pretty good at getting people that disagree with each other to get along. And I've learned many times over that you never convince someone you never persuade someone to change their mind about something that matters by telling them why they're wrong or why you're right. And so I've got, I think, 14 or 15 Republican senators that I trust, that I've built a relationship. They've been to my house for dinner, or I've gone out and met their family. And they are, each one, going through, I think, the same nightly anxiety I am. And I think this abduction of an innocent person and then sending them off for a lifetime of torture and imprisonment is going to be the last straw. I think that there is now, I'm beginning to get a sense, it might take a week or two, and it's a legitimate question whether we'll be able to get Mr. Orrego Garcia has probably been tortured. I mean, it's such a, anyway, obviously we'll do everything we can possibly to bring that man back and force the White House to. And I am convinced if the White House, if the United States government stops paying El Salvador to keep him there, they'll bring him back.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for breaking bread and building relationships across the aisle. We have to be able to work with people with different ideas without demonizing them. There's a woman here with a purple shirt on right on the aisle. Go ahead, that's you. Yep, please, right here.
I want to make sure also, I'm not trying to be partisan. I am answering the questions. And I realize there's probably a large number of Republicans or at least conservative-leaning independents in there. I mean, I don't know that. I've been coming to Colorado Springs for a long time. But I do think you gotta paint the picture the way it is. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Susan Gordon from Canyon City. I'm a human being, and I want to go outside of the country for a moment and talk about the genocide that's occurring in Gaza. Funded to the tune of $17.9 billion. Previous administration, current administration. I appreciate the strong words that you have had, very empathetic towards the victims of the humanitarian crisis that's occurring there now. You've had some very strong words. I would like to see it backed up by some action. And you have two opportunities. The joint resolution of refusal to stop funding to stop sending military weapons, 2,000-pound bombs that kill indiscriminately. You can sign on to that, and you have not. I ask, why have you not, and will you in the future if that comes forward again? This sending of military aid is clearly against both domestic law, the Leahy law, and international law. And two, there's an opportunity to refund UNRWA, which is vital humanitarian aid that is not getting into the people in Gaza. No food, no water, no medical care, no shelter. You
So
have the opportunity to sign on
get to the
that.
question.
Will you sign on that, Senator?
No.
Thank you.
You guys go right to the heart of the matter. I went down after Hamas invaded Israel. I went down to what they call SCIF, which is the highest security. You leave your cell phone. You can't even have an electric watch. You can't go in there. And I saw the real videos of what those people did. And
I'm talking about what
I will
Israel's
never
Not
have those
people.
images the rest of my life out of my mind. I think it's one of
Let's let
the
the senator finish, please.
it's one of the harshest events I've ever experienced. And again, the world is full of people that are hating each other and killing each other and going back and forth. And that I'm not justifying my vote or justifying anything. It's an observation. But seeing the barbarity of what was done to Jewish citizens, I understand why that response was. That being said, I don't believe there's no moral code in any religion that allows you to go and kill tens of thousands of innocent civilians, that allows you to clear block after block after block after block after block of people's homes and commercial buildings. I mean, we are at war with Iran, and somehow many people are getting caught in their crossfire. UNRWA, I think, I am, again, let's see the form it comes, but I think that was a mistake, and they stopped funding that, and I'm happy to do everything I can to get that refunded. I continue to believe that we've got to push back as hard as we can, and there are a lot of
Will you sign on to the bill
a lot of
to
hard.
refund it?
There's a
Let's let him finish and then we'll move on to the next
there's
question.
there's a lot of hard decisions when you're in war and how that happens. I do continue to believe that we have to have a ceasefire. I mean, a permanent ceasefire, and that we have to have. There's got to be a pathway, a dual country, a two-state solution that allows Palestinian people to be autonomous and to govern their own affairs.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Yes, you sir with the black shirt with your hand up right here. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Senator Hickenlooper. I wish I could share your optimism about the immigration issue and bipartisan cooperation, but I just can't. My name is Pablo Capistrano. I'm a constituent here in Colorado Springs, and my question to you is, what are you going to do to protect people like me from unlawful detainment and rendition to foreign law? If you want a story, a policy story, let me tell you mine. Okay, my parents brought me here when I was 2 years old from the Philippines. We were undocumented. Thanks to the Reagan amnesty, we were eventually able to get our green cards. And I chose to show my gratitude to this country by joining the military and serving in the Navy for 20 years. That includes multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan in the air and on the ground. My bet is ICE doesn't care if they roll me up tomorrow. They won't care if I'm naturalized. They don't care if I have a birth certificate tattooed on my forehead. They appear to be working without any rules, without any oversight. I was talking to my wife. We're setting up an SOP, a list of instructions on what to do if I get detained, if I don't come home on time, who she needs to call, what website she can go to track where I might be held, what immigration attorney to call. This danger feels very real to us. And you might think I'm overreacting. I really don't think I am, just based on the story. When you answer my question, sir, respectfully, here's what I don't need to hear. I don't need to hear about bipartisan cooperation with dictators. I don't need to hear about decorum, and I definitely don't want to hear about fundraising right now. I am not in that mood, okay? What I want is for you and my fellow elected officials to throw sand in the gears of government that is disappearing innocent people off the streets, that wants to denaturalize veterans like me, that is defying court orders and punishing First Amendment speech. You can't wait until the midnight. You need to hold us. You need to hold us facilitate and coordinate resistance against this regime right now. This resistance is rising from a rising tide. Right now, Greenhard Aldrich and the one levels of hate is coming to the home girls. So what is your consent? What are you going to do to help us?
Down with the Gestapo.
I would never diminish your anxiety, your risk, and thank you for your service. And I will do everything possible.
What does that mean? What does it mean?
Well, we are out. Take a deep breath. We're out there trying I mean, what you can march, you can organize, you can and create rallies. Those are all happening. You can bring as much.
What are you gonna do?
I am organizing as best I can. I am going to rallies. I am trying to protest. Some people have different uses in different times in different ways, and I'm happy. I'm more than happy to go down. I was at the state capitol a couple weeks ago. The reality is we have to find some way to bring enough pressure on ICE, and if that's rallies and protests, again, I grew up in the 60s, right? I marched on Washington for civil rights. I went to the First Earth Day. I did all that stuff, and none of it worked, right? 1968, we closed down universities all over the country. We had an incredible uprising. We lost that election in 1968 by one of the worst disastrous failures of our Democratic Party in history. So, not that we shouldn't do that, we have to make people feel like they're heard and that elected officials care. We've got to be doing other things at the same time, and I think part of that's litigating in the courts, part of that is going to the media and the entertainment business. If you think about what Donald Trump is doing, he has turned politics into entertainment. Every single one of these malevolent people that he has appointed into his cabinet are all experts, and they're telegenic, and they either have their own TV shows or they're huge, millions and millions of followers, they're social influencers. We've got to be able to push back more and turn that tide against them. If you've got, I will stick around. If you've got opportunities or things where you need me and I can add value, I'm happy to do it. I'm spending as close as I can get, 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours a day, working on this, trying to sort through it. And
what exactly?
Again, I don't have the great answer to you because I never believed. I think a lot of people. I mean, I read Project 2025, and it's pretty clear what is intended there. When I read that, I couldn't believe that would ever happen in our country, right? I watched what I'm seeing now on TV. I can't believe what's happening in our country. And I'm not going to give into it, but I think we've got to be very strategic about how we're going to be able to win.
Great. Thank you, Senator. Back here, the woman with the green shirt and the sunglasses on your head. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Given the gravity of the topics today, my ass feels a little yellow. That's still really important. I want to talk about kids with cancer. I'm Julie, a mom, child cancer survivor. Since my son was diagnosed with leukemia at age 6 in 2016, I've worked with many organizations across the state, one of which being the Organized Foundation, to advance childhood cancer research. My ask for you today is for your continued support, and specifically on Senator Bennett's Give Kids a Chance Act that will be before your committee real soon.
No. How is your child now?
Thank you. He's good. He's now 15, about to be 16, and all clear. Thank you.
I think I'm already on that bill. I have to go check, but I know that Michael talked to me about it, and it's one of a number of bills. It does highlight the fact that in retribution for the social wars, this White House is trying to cut science research at a level that we've never seen before, and not just for a lot of it is for cancer. I mean, a huge amount of it is for cancer, but it's for everything you can imagine. It's for things we're going to need for our strategic defense. You know, the quantum computing and things like that, and all that research. When you cut it down and stop, especially medical research, because you have laboratories that are difficult to put together, when they are told that their grant is going to be disallowed this year, it all falls apart. The postdoc goes to another school, does a different project, they can't piece the lab together. It gets, the discontinuity basically causes real loss, much greater expense. I was gratified to see Harvard is not going to buckle. Funny, 2 Sundays ago, I went for a long walk with a friend who's very active and very involved and very successful, and he's on one of the boards at Harvard. I think he's on the board of advisors for the business school or something. And he was furious because they did buckle up till then, and he said, "What's the point of having a $50 billion endowment if you're going to roll over for the first time a tyrant, throws their weight at you?" And luckily they heard it. Anyway, I'm on it. I support Michael's bill, and we will do everything we can to raise the ante on research.
Yes. Okay. So let's take her right in the front row. So, veteran. And I know there's so many hands, I'm sure we're not going to get to everybody all, but thank you for your patience.
Sure.
Good evening, Senator. I'm Steve from the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'm the legislative director for Colorado. Welcome, thank you for coming to Colorado Springs and El Paso County. Luckily, El Paso County happens to be the 3rd largest veteran-populated congressional district in Colorado. And so many people in this room are veterans already. I mean, if you ask for a show of hands, pretty sure.
Veterans?
Let's see your hands.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That gentleman over there is a hard act to follow, I gotta say. But one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, and we talked about before, was the Veterans Affairs and the hiring and firings and everything from there. Last time we talked about, to refresh your memory, we talked about the 40 senators that you work with and everything like that. So today we're just working on, the people who accidentally got rehired now. I mean, if people were fired, people in the background, people who do things for, administrative and everything like that. There have been providers who were fired, and I haven't found out those that have been rehired yet. So, one of the things that Secretary Collins was talking about, and this is the crux of the question I'm promising up there. Secretary Collins said that, I'm gonna put a pause on the firings for probably about 3 months, and look at everything now. The things that we've been asking for forever, or it feels like forever. Let's see where we're at. But, do we believe them, do we not? Kind of deal. So, can we verify through your office, can we verify, I'm going to ask this of many people too, can we make sure that we are going to pause the firings? Because veterans out there are suffering. Veterans who I know in mental health care are suffering. That's the worst part of it. Veterans who are looking for community care are suffering. There's all kinds of veterans who are suffering out there right now due to the VA. And we need to make sure that we have an answer.
Thank you. A lot of the legal successes have been finding places where people were fired against the law, and a lot of those people were veterans. As you know, President Biden put a priority on hiring veterans, and so if you're going to go by the rule, the last person hired is the first person fired, you're going to disproportionately lay off more veterans. And again, I don't think that's why, not just the veterans are going to be unhappy, Americans are going to be happy. That's not why so many people voted for President Trump, was so that he could lay off veterans. Do we have a guarantee for the 3 months? No. And do I trust that they'll do that? No. One argument that I've heard from a psychologist, pretty smart person, was that Trump really just cares about power and cares about leverage. So he attacks the lawyers, intimidates the lawyers so he can get them to work for him, which gives him leverage. Because then he can attack the universities and try to break them apart and take down their research if they don't give in to him. So he has power over them, and then that gives him more leverage over families. He's looking at this is the argument, and it seems to fill in a lot of the spaces, that he is looking for leverage and really trying to attack the institutions of America. So first, he attacks his enemies and rubs them out, gets them off the political landscape completely. Then he looks at all the institutions, so universities, veterans. I mean, the veterans are an institution. When we did the PACT Act, we passed the PACT Act in this last Congress, which is the largest increase in veteran benefits in the history of America, right? I mean, without question, people that have been sitting around those burn pits for year after year after year and had exactly the predicted sicknesses, we're having to go out and prove that there was direct correlation, and we fixed that. That doesn't mean that President Trump doesn't feel some benefit from taking them down. So we'll see. In 3 months, we'll find out. But we're not going to wait. We're going to continue. And I appreciate, as you described, I can't remember the soldier's name who had 2 children. He came out, moved out here with his wife, and had a job, and then he got laid off. And after 2.5 weeks, he got hired back. And he was still furious. He said, "They think I'm going to be happy just because they hired me back? My God, we went through 2 weeks of hell. We've got a little teeny child. We've got 2 kids, and my wife was trying to figure out could she go back to work? Could I find a job? We had to make rent. We'd spent our savings to move out to Colorado, and now we're going to be out on the street." That is cruel to put through so many people. You're seeing this, again, roughly 25,000 people have been laid off. Again, the total workforce is a small percentage, but those are real lives. And in many cases, they've done nothing wrong. They're just doing their job. For many of you don't remember, but I never was involved in politics. I had owned a bunch of restaurants, and I ran for mayor of Denver in 2003. First political thing I ever did, because I was so pissed off that the mayor and city council seemed to be making decisions for their own reelection. And I was a small business guy, had business downtown, and so a whole bunch of us kind of got together, and it was kind of a joke. No one ever thought that I could ever be a politician, let alone win an election. But we won. We got 2/3 of the vote. And the whole thing we ran on was government should be smaller. Everyone thinks government should be smaller. It does. It grows too big. So we ran, but we could go and lay everyone off. We did a hiring freeze for 2.5 years. And as people, baby boomers retired, people went to another job somewhere else, we didn't replace them. And we spent a lot of time working with the workforce to tell them how valuable they were, how great they were, and they had to do a little more, that we could do more with less. And they rose to the occasion. We were the first city to do all kinds of stuff. First, high-quality early childhood education for every 4-year-old. We had a civilian oversight commission to investigate any allegations of misconduct from the police. All these things we did with less people. And that's what should be happening in our federal government, as the opposite. We're taking veterans and pushing them in the ditch.
Thank you, Senator. So I see a couple of young people that I want to call on next, and there's a young gentleman right here with curly hair. Yeah, would you stand up? And then we'll go to you next with the headphones on, the young woman over here with your hand up.
Hello, Mr. Senator Hickenlooper. It's an honor to be here. My name is Aaron Oganis. I'm a high school student at STEM School Highlands Ranch. So my question for you here today is, obviously you have a lot of criticisms of the Trump administration. Isn't it best to prioritize those ways? So number one, the public understands what your party's priorities are, and number two, you can send a more strong and unified message out. And if that's the case, that prioritization is key. What are you going to be prioritizing? Thank you.
That, my friends, is a fair question.
So, just before you hold me too much and disrespect you too much, I'm answering questions, so you haven't heard mine. If I was going to make priorities, I want to have a two-party system in this country that works, and I want a Democratic Party that's going to be able to compete, and I want to be able to have a Democratic Senate. I want to be in the game, in the race, in Indiana, in Missouri, in Kansas, in Nebraska, in Montana. All these are places where we had Democratic senators 12 or 14 years ago, and now we don't even compete. So you asked me what my priority is. I think we got to respect civil rights. It's always going to be the backbone of the Democratic Party. We've got to always recognize that we're going to try and do everything we can for the last and the least, and create, as much as we can, more opportunity for everyone. But we got to have a strong economy. And I've been saying this since I ran for mayor. When I ran for governor, we had an economic development plan for the state. My last 3 years as governor, we were, according to the U.S. News and World Report, we were the #1 state economy in America 3 years in a row, only time that's ever happened. But it was because everyone worked together, right? It wasn't, we had no edict. We weren't tyrannical, but had everybody on the same page. Colorado Springs was a big part of that effort. And I put that as at the highest priority, and you can break that down into what are the things you need to build a strong economy. And we did a state business plan. Every county did a business plan. El Paso County did a business plan. But the first thing in almost every county was get rid of bureaucracy and red tape, right? Then get better access to capital. Make sure you have the workforce trained in the skills that are actually going to be necessary. They can get good jobs. Start figuring out ways to incentivize innovation that will lead to startups and therefore job creation. The sixth one was always, and stop promoting Colorado as a place to come ski. Promote Colorado as a place to come raise your family.
Thank you. There's a young woman here on the aisle here with I don't know if it's headphones on and your hand pink sweater. And did I hear say go to the back? Are you talking about the way back in the bleachers? Okay, we'll move back there. We have, I think, just 10 more minutes, so we're not going to get to everybody.
I'll be more concise, I promise.
My name is Daniela, and I'm a former college student at Pikes Peak Community College. And I suffer from a TBI injury that was caused from a medical student over in Europe. And they gave me a TBI by putting tourniquet over my head. My question is, are you going to provide something for people like me that have TBIs and others with disabilities to promote more programs and to be able to go back to school?
Another easy question, yes, absolutely, and we've worked on that while I was governor. The next step from that is obviously make sure that you have the support necessary to go back to college. But the next step beyond that is how do we, again, as our unemployment's at less than 4%, how do we make sure that businesses, we give them the support to hire people that are coming out with a college degree or even with just a certificate that have had something like TBI or some other disability, allow them an opportunity to have a real life and to earn a living.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to those in the bleachers. There's a gentleman with kind of a red t-shirt on in the front bleachers. Go ahead. The red t-shirt guy is who I called on. You're giving it to the guy with the hat. All right, go ahead. Let's go. Let's keep moving.
My name is Tim Weber, and I'm with Teamsters Local 455, and I was wondering where you stand on the Faster Labor Contract Act. and also the Package Prodigy Act.
What was the second one?
It's the Package Prodigy Act. It hasn't been introduced yet, but it will correctly classify FedEx, Express, and Freight under the NRLA instead of the RLA.
Okay, I think I know that one. I think I support that, but I'd have to see it. But I'm pretty sure I know exactly what that is. It's from the existing law way back in whatever it was 1934 or 1935, where they classified the different labor categorization. I was just talking to the head of the AFL-CIO yesterday, I guess, on the PRO Act. Again, as a federal official, I don't wade into the state issues. When I was governor, I made Bill Ritter and Bill Owens both made commitments that they would not come and upstate. But while I was mayor, while I was governor, I think we did as much as anybody has to help improve labor, make sure people aren't getting paid under the table, that we get everybody. I mean, the goal, if you look at the history of the middle class, if you care about the middle class, you go back to 1960, and the middle class has steadily declined almost exactly with the decline in labor. Yeah. In other words, less union jobs, a smaller middle class. So we've tried and continue to try to do everything we can in the Congress, and I'm supporting the PRO Act loudly, and just for the record, the PRO Act goes beyond. I'm just saying.
All right.
I'm not controlling him. I am saying that. Well, I'll say that Governor Polson and I have had discussions.
So we've had a good 30 hands up every time. We have 5 minutes left. I know I'm not going to get to everybody. I'm going to go over here to the woman in the blue t-shirt. We need a mic up here in the front.
Good evening, Senator Hickenlooper. My name is Polly Doring, and I am a licensed early childhood educator here in El Paso County. I am here today to make a statement on the lack of affordable
a question would be great. Can you do it in a question?
I am getting there. Thank you so much.
Okay, Senator says go ahead.
Thank you for your patience. While I am here today speaking as an educator, I want to emphasize that my passion about this issue is rooted not only from my experiences over the last 20 years in this field, but as a mom to a 5-year-old son named Jax. I am one of the 24% of women in our country that has had to leave the workforce because we could not afford affordable quality childcare program. Excuse me. I obtained my childcare license and opened my own program, Polly's Preschool, in our house as a way to stay home with our son, financially contribute to my family, and help my community with a very real crisis. The lack of affordability for quality childcare in our country is affecting every family, whether they have children or not. It affects every industry. Every person that leaves the workforce due to a lack of affordable childcare is a loss in net productivity for that employer and a time and training invested in that valued employee. Affordable childcare is a bipartisan issue. And the ones being negatively affected by this issue are the most are children of lower and middle income families. This is not okay. Real children all over our country are being denied the opportunities for learning simply because their parents cannot afford to pay for it. Not okay. In a time of great division in our country, I ask that we shift our focus and our priorities to the ones who are looking at us the most for a hopeful future, and that is our children. Senator Hickenlooper, as we work to find solutions for families like mine and children like Jax and Ella, how do you see your role in advancing access to affordable, high-quality childcare? And what steps are you most committed to taking to make that a reality in Colorado? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and well stated. And I couldn't agree more. And since I first ran, got elected, got in the finals, and got elected mayor of Denver, there was a guy who was everyone thought he would win, named Ari Savaris. and his biggest issue was early childhood education. So he came to me, and usually when somebody drops out, they want you to pay off their debt or whatever. He said, I want you to take a moment and study early childhood education for the next 2 days, and then I want you to support it, which I did. And so we started 3 different commissions. Over the course of 18 months, we studied it to death. But you're right, it pays for itself many times over. You just have to lay it out for people in black and white. We went with a ballot initiative for the sales tax. We made Denver the first city in America to pass high quality early childhood education for every 4-year-old. Now we're down to 3-year-olds. The trick for me is to have that process of where you get civic leaders from all over the community look at it and travel to other cities and see how it works and see the economic benefits, and let the business leaders see that this is really a business initiative. I'm not diminishing this. Crucially important for a family. Some of you don't know this, I have a wife that's 20 years younger and decided that she changed her mind when she got closer to 50, and I have a 2-year-old son at home. Right? I'm living proof that there's one miracle left in each of us. And every morning he comes in and we spend the first hour in bed together, and I get it. I mean, watch how fast he's learning and how important every interaction is in his development is crystal clear. So ultimately, this should be something like a federal mandate, except we can't get the federal government to give any money to our schools. I mean, basically dropping the budget. I think every time we've done any bill around more funding for education, we make sure we include early childhood education. So anyway, keep at it. And I know Governor Polis feels the same way about this. He really is passionate about trying to find more money for it.
So, Senator, with that, it is 7 o'clock, and okay, he said he's willing to take one more. Thanks for the pressure. I get to pick one out of the 50 hands that are up right now, and some of you have had your hand up the whole time. So, I don't know, I'm going to just go. There's, right back here, you've got the sweater. Yeah, you're pointing to yourself. Yes, you. Go ahead. Yes, you do need a microphone. It's coming.
Okay. So, I'm back to Governor, but Senator Hickenlooper, my name is Devin Phelan. I'm a resident of Colorado Springs. There's a very important issue I want to talk about for our family, and then I have a very general issue. So, the current superintendent of the Air Force Academy is trying to remove civilian faculty and personnel. Yes, I know that face. Thinking that basically captains that come back to the Air Force Academy could be teaching at the same level as professional educators. So my first thing is to bring attention to that, because I don't think that's something that a lot of people understand or know right now, and it could be a service academy-wide issue. The second thing is, has the Democratic Party realized times have changed? Yeah. Yes. The administration, wait, give me a second. The administration that we currently have is literally a fascist regime. Yeah. We're on track to not have a Congress. That's right. Your opinion is about not to matter. Yeah. The Democrats have to change how they're doing it. Exactly. Yes. Please, this is no question.
Well, I want to hear your suggestion first.
I would love to. So the social media thing that you're being coached right now, oh my God, get on it. Make bold statements.
It's right here, buddy.
We want to hear where? Fake tans. Come on, eyeliner. Obviously it's working. These are things where we have to be more of a party that is fun to look at. Say outrageous things. Make weird posts. I mean, you have to stop.
I already said this. We've got to get into the entertainment business. I get it.
You have to stop taking the high road. This is not the time.
Got your chance right here.
Next thing you're going to want me to do attack ads. Exactly. I hear what you said. I heard very clearly, and I agree. What we've done before is inadequate. I mean, there's no question that the system is corrupt, right? The system is, I mean, there's a reason why no one can afford a house at the same time these private equity companies are buying up block after block after block of houses and therefore nobody else can afford. There's a reason why nobody can afford their health care, right? The system is rigged.
What are you
and
going
Donald Trump promised to de-rig it. He's not de-rigging it. He is re-rigging it for his own benefit.
What are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to do everything I can.
How's that working?
Everyone's got an idea. It's easy to sit in the crowd and say, you do this, you do that. You get up here and run for office. See how much you like it. I will do
Maybe you should.
Listen, Colorado is a free and independent state, right? We will never kneel to a king. We will always push back and fight with everything we can. We will never bow down to a king, and I think that's part of all of us. One thing that wouldn't hurt Democrats to learn is we don't succeed too well when we have circular firing squads, right? And to go after, when Chuck Schumer disappoints people, and trust me, he disappoints me from time to time, more in stories you can't imagine. We need unity more than anything else. If we're going to win in Indiana, and Kansas, and Nebraska, we're going to have a lot more of common purpose and willingness to accept people that are not exactly believing exactly what we believe.
Schumer is weak.
Thank you, everybody. Clearly, we all are suffering from the chaos and from the disruption, and we are very angry, and we have a fabulous senator who's here, who's taken our questions, and let's give him one more round of applause. Thank you, yes. This is tough times. This is very, very tough times for our whole country, regardless of our party. Is there anything final that you would like to say to the crowds?
Just to thank you. Thank you all again for taking time out of your day, for listening, for not just for being here, but engaging yourself. And I really do believe that we can organize in ways that we don't even know yet. And that we can march and protest and find ways to bring that pressure on our elected officials so that they can't not make the changes that I think pretty much all of us agree need to be changed. So you don't have to worry about me making the wrong. I think I'm voting the way you want me to vote. I think what we're worried about, you're worried about what people are worried, most people are worried about, maybe not the people in this room, most people are worried about their kids, and making their rent, and how they can live a life where their family can grow with a sense of security. I realize that's a broad statement. That is what I think we need to look at day in, day out, is to figure out how do we get to that unity, how do we build back to that life, and then do it.
How come when they're in the minority, they can
Thank you,
stop it,
everyone.
but we can't?
Appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you to the university. Have a good evening. Keep fighting the good fight.